Hello, everyone, and welcome to You Matter Talks. And today I'm super excited to be having a conversation with Tracy. Welcome, Tracy.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here, Leanne.
Super nice to have you. So, it's going to be an interesting talk, I feel like, that's going to be happening today. While I've been trying to get us on live, me and Tracy have been chit-chatting, and our original intention was trust, boundaries, and sexual trauma, which huge kind of important topic. But as you guys all know, that I don't pre-plan these other than pretty much a title. That's about it. And so, organically, lots of other things come up. And, I just want to really leave opportunity for that to happen here. And so some of the things we've been talking a little bit about is being sexual variant. And so, yes, should be interesting conversation. And just to catch you guys all up, I think how it went is you're like, this is what I'm specializing in. And I'm like, well, I think just about everyone is probably sexually variant unless they're doing missionary heterosexual sex only. And
True story. Yeah.
And down the rabbit hole we went from there for the last 12 or so minutes.
It's been awesome and so true. And the reason I chose sexually variant is because I find people, like you said earlier, people don't like labels. So if I was to say, okay, I want to be someone who works in the LGBT community, then it feels like I'm just narrowing myself down to certain specific people. And it's just like, no, I want to deal with all sexually variant people who identify with being open without shame on their own sexual journey and sexuality and what that looks like for them. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think I've just found it, just so interesting, like all the conversations that I've had with people that really don't identify as being that. And then I'll be like, do you do this? Have you ever done that? Have you ever done that? And they're like, oh yeah, of course I've done that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's actually kind of kinky, or that's actually kind of, I'm like, right? What? Because there seems to be a lot of like, just interesting kind of mythology, I guess, around, the community and around maybe what happens. I mean, some of it is true. Like, there's always truth, I find, and there's always, so there's a bit of truth and a bit of non-truth in most perspectives, right? And, it's been so interesting for people I've found around me to discover that there's like this whole world that they can explore that's like totally honoring to themselves, totally honoring to other people, fun, playful, super sexy, where you can like, just basically play with all of these dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
so I love play parties. Yeah. Yay. Play parties were the best for that because it did allow people a safe place to navigate through their own sexuality. And I remember going in, and it's not like, depending again, what, like you're saying, right? It's all in what you prefer. Like there was rooms where it was heterosexual sex, then there was rooms where it was just women, and then there was room that was just men. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is everybody loving everybody, and everybody can come together without judgment. That's my kind of world.
It's pretty huge. I mean, the non-judgment thing is so like, has been so important for me, at least in my journey. Because as we were talking about, earlier on, it was like, well, how do you like figure out where you fit? How do you figure out what's okay? And the biggest thing was allowing myself freedom from judgment and allowing others freedom from judgment. And it was really confusing, like when, people wanted me to give them labels, or they wanted me to tell them where I was at with, was this like, it was like, okay, well, I think I'm heterosexual because that's how I was raised. Literally like default, right? Don't know, but pretty sure I am. And, and then it was like, the whole bisexual thing. And even my partner's like, you have to be bisexual. But it was like, but no, I kind of think I prefer men. So it was like, well, then I can't be bisexual according to a lot of people. And and there was just like all of this, stuff. And then I just figured out through my own exploration that I just like, I have a lot of feminine energy, I have a lot of masculine energy, and I like partners with a lot of inner masculine energy. And it just often ends up being in the male form on the outside. And but yeah, like it was so confusing, like trying to explore and then almost having people like judge my exploration as being right or wrong, or like, is the label right or wrong? And like, I don't want to offend people, and I don't. And I found like for so many clients that's really confusing too, because they're like, what am I, and can I talk about it if I don't have the appropriate label? And I think there's just such a big invitation for all of us to just be really open and non-judgmental, and be just like, hey, what do I like, what do you like? And then leaving the labels aside.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you on that, because I'm the same way. I don't like putting labels on my excuse me, on myself even. It's like going through that whole sexual exploration too. Like as soon as I came out and was like, cut my hair and kind of did what felt good to me, because I posted a picture yesterday where I did have long hair, and no thank you, never again.
I thought that actually.
Right, never again, man. So it's like, again, like you said, people judging, okay, well, if you're going to be a lesbian, then you have to cut your hair short. And I mean, I had my hair long for a really long time, so I was like, okay, and did it slowly, and then people, okay, now you're a lesbian, and I'm like, well, am I? Is this what makes me a lesbian? And then I was like so confused, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm attracted to women, so maybe. But again, like you said, it has nothing to do with the labels. It's just like, because I myself prefer more masculine women, so women who can take care of themselves, that have strong courage, like stand on their own. There's no question of who they are as a person. I appreciate that. It's those ones that are like, oh, well, you should probably change because I can't relate to who you are. That's when I'm like, oh yeah, there's that red flag. I gotta go now. Like,
yeah, and you're like so spot on about the outside thing, like how we all present on the outside being like somehow some sort of reflection, and it's so not true. I mean, I know so many women that are like super heterosexual, super short hair. So many women that are very much lesbians and very like long, like, like really in that, the really typical sort of
femme way.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can
like,
say.
This stuff is like so hard, like I don't look at feminine masculine energy so much as being like, I think we all have feminine masculine energy. I think we all have it in different proportions. And I think that's really important. And even, in some of my work for people in the community, I will actually say, I'll just call it earth and water energy.
Mm-hmm.
If the feminine masculine is a bit triggering, it's like, here's earth, here's water, here's our planet. It's made of both.
Yes, exactly.
Both. We need both in our relationships. There's a balance and a marriage between the two, and an inner marriage between the two. And it's super important. They work together. They support each other. And we all have different quantities of the water and different quantities of the land. And we tend to get with partners that are a yin to our yang, and
or will just meet us where we're at, because that's what I find too. Like, you'll meet people who meet you exactly where you're at, but then there's those times where it's like, if in my experience, I have felt the empowered growth, but it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it makes me think of one relationship that I was in where it was like, I grew because of that relationship, but it was odd because that person remained where they were. So it's almost like I met them where they were at. I grew from that. And then I was just like, okay, well, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's not put ourselves into these boxes. And they just didn't know how to catch up to that. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting. Like, how does that work? Like, I mean, it didn't obviously, but over time. But at the same time, it's like, the labels and stuff started to come into where I was starting to dismiss the labels. I was like, no, you can just call me Tracy. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is where my masculine feels more empowered. This is where my feminine feels more empowered. If we can somehow bring the two together to work in balance and in harmony with each other, then I will be a more conducive partner, intimately and otherwise.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that. Wow, like we didn't plan to go on this one at all. But so much of the work that I do on myself over the years and have done with other people is really what I would call the inner masculine, inner feminine marriage. And it's literally like pulling all the shadow, all the belief systems, all of that, like out in the open about what we think the feminine is outside of us, inside of us, and really looking at it and noticing what is inside of us. Where have we made judgments about one or the other? Where have we contributed to things? Where have we, like, all of that? And like really exploring that like inner journey and really coming to a place where you just fully recognize this beautiful synergy between your own inner and outer masculine. And the thing that I found so powerful is that when I see people do that work, it completely transforms their outer relationships. Like they go from attracting partners with a lot of perhaps like undealt with trauma, maybe even partners that have been like more sexist, like things like this, like more judgmental, to like all of a sudden just finding people that are also kind of done this inner masculine feminine work and are able to just really meet them. And I think it's so important. Like, I think as a world right now, there is a huge invitation for us to really step beyond our ideas of what this whole gender thing and like all of that, and step into like a more humanitarian based focus where we recognize that we all have these qualities inside of us. We've all contributed as a society to the, excuse my language, shit that has gone on in whatever ways. And honoring that we can all move forward in a different direction.
And I agree with you on that, because that's what I think too, because I've done workshops with both men and women, and then having it be a combined workshop. And it's amazing to me to see the more feminine men wanting to be held by their women, and the shame that comes with even asking for that from them. And that's where my heart breaks for them, because I'm like, if we can just honor, because I work with a lot of men, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, yeah, if we can, like you said, I just identify within ourselves the masculine, feminine traits, because that's why I identify as non-binary. And I know maybe I'm not using that label right or whatever, but it's because I can't relate to a masculine side or a feminine side. I just know that when they come together, this is who I am. So for someone to be like, oh, well, you should try on dresses, or you should try. And I was like, my feminine doesn't like that. Like no, I can't. Sorry. So it's just like really finding out for yourself what masculine and feminine means, and being okay within ourselves. Because I had a hard time, being a woman for a long time, because I was like, I don't fit in. I'm too masculine. I'm too this. I don't wear skirts. I'm not feminine at all, really. And how I love and care and nurture is definitely very feminine. But how I present and how I live my life is very much, I do for myself and myself only. Yeah. Like, so
I don't equate clothing or any of that with the masculine feminine, like at all. Like, no. That is just like, it's not even connected. Like, it's just right? Like, not at all.
Yeah, like, it's just what fits you and what makes you feel comfortable and sexy and like all of that. Yeah.
Like, what do you like? Okay, it's like, I don't know, it's like judging someone to be, I don't know, like, to me, it's really bizarre. It's be like if you like tulips, you must be more or the other, and if you like trees, you must be like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I've never really equated with what people wear or how they present on the outside, funny enough. Like, to me, it's such an internal qualities.
Yes, exactly.
But I guess, that's not a conversation that, I guess is a really like mainstream conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it might be within communities. like, within my friends and things like this, I mean, this just is not anything new or even exciting. But yet, if I start, sort of talking to people outside of my circles about this stuff, they're kind of like,
Yeah, it's true. And that's why I feel like I need to start bringing those people in, right? The people who do talk about it all the time and hold no shame in any of it. Like, we need to start turning ourselves outwards for those people who don't see themselves really at all. Like, and they're still struggling to, like, bouncing off the societal norms. And it's like, guys, you don't have to bounce off of those anymore. Those, like, get rid of the beliefs and the patterns and the habits that you picked up when you were a kid and that were passed off from other people. Because if I was still in the belief of when I was a kid, I'd still probably be wearing those blouses and those fucking ugly skirts and the, like, because that's what my family identified as feminine. And I'm like, ooh, it's making my skin itchy. Like, I can't do this. And then growing into my own and knowing, like, okay, that's just a belief, that's just a pattern. I don't need to follow any of that. Follow from my heart-centered space, knowing what both my masculine and feminine feel comfortable in. And then also how I feel comfortable portraying myself to society, right? Because there's a lot of people, oh, well, Tracy, just so you know, it's how does that go? First impressions are everything, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I used to be so super like, oh my God, I have to, like, put some mascara on at least a little bit so they know I'm a girl and this, that. And I'm like, nah, that's fine. I'll just show up as me now. Like, I won't try so hard as I used to, because it's really not necessary.
And then you call in your people, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. If you're, like, say, you're putting yourself out in public all the time and doing things that aren't natural to you, you're going to attract people that are attracted to what you're kind of putting out there. And those people are probably, at the end of the day, not going to jive with you. They're not going to be your community. They're not going to be the people that accept you unconditionally, because they were attracted to you because you were wearing mascara that day and you presented a certain way, right? Whereas when you go out in public, I think being who you are, you attracts like. I think actually the more authentic you can be in who you are, the more likely you are to attract the kind of relationships into your life that serve you. Because it's just, I call it the natural filter.
Like, tell me more about that.
I have so many clients, they go on their dating profiles. Like, I had this one, it's just a funny story. And she eats anchovies for breakfast in the morning. Every day.
Yeah.
So she, like, does her profile all these different ways that kind of don't really represent her, but it's how she thinks she needs to be attractive to the kind of man that she wants, right? And and she eats these anchovies, and this is like her secret thing that she does. But I mean, seriously, every single day, who's not going to find this out when they date her?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
So it would turn out she'd find this great man, he'd come over finally, and then she'd eat her anchovies in the morning, and he'd be like, I'm out of here. So I'm like, why would you just, like, let's just put it on your profile, like, love anchovies. Does this, and she's just like, yeah, this sucks. Like, I'm getting so many less likes. I'm like, right. Why would you want to waste all your time with those guys that are going to ditch you over something like you like anchovies? Like, come on, really? Yeah. And sure enough, as she got over the bump of not getting all the likes and all the messages, she started to see that the messages and the people that were actually coming into her life were actually better matches. And they didn't care if she ate anchovies in the morning. And, and so, I think, like, really, like, it's a natural filter. Like, be who you are. And if people don't like it, great. You're not going to end up even wasting your time with them, because they're not going to be interested in you whatsoever. And the people that are going to be likely truly interested in who you are.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. And that's a great thing to what you just said there, because I don't tend to do that on my dating profiles either, because I'm like, I'm a little bit weird, and I'm like, okay, I'm all about the rituals, I'm all about the thing, but I just say I'm very highly intuitive, a bit of a medium, and then it's like, I get nothing. It's nothing. They're like, I don't want you reading me. I'm like, I won't read you unless you ask me to.
Oh my God. Oh no, anything that I think, like, is going to be like an immediate turn off, like, it's not even like, yeah, like, so when I do profiles for myself or for other people, like, they are very like point on. Like, it is like, and you know, and then you can tell when somebody doesn't read them. I mean,
Yeah.
that is the funniest thing. Like, I mean, you know, on my own, like, I mean, I'll have people approach me on a dating profile and they'll say something. And this is like, oh my God, you did not read my thing at all.
Right? Yeah. Or I really love those ones that are like, hey. I'm like, what is that? Hey. Hey. Hay's for horses, fucker. Like, sorry, that was a bit much. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm putting this on other things.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry, my bad.
With you saying it because I say it, but
yeah.
I try and limit it on the live feeds and the.
Yeah, sorry, viewers. Yeah.
I already did it already in the call too, so apparently that's just in the energy today.
Yeah, we're owning it.
It is so interesting, you know, the dating profiles. I have really considered like doing like a 5-day challenge for people on dating profiles because of what I see. Like, I mean, you know, people come and they're like, I don't understand why I can't, you know, attract somebody. And, you know, I go and look and like all their photos of them are like with a hat. It's usually, I get more men with dating profile issues, right? Because they're like, oh, it's just that like I don't get messages because I'm a man and like all of this. And let me say, if you do a good profile as a man, you will get messages.
Yeah.
There are lots of women bold enough to do it. So, but you know, they'll be wearing their hat, they'll be wearing their sunglasses. You know, you can't see their face. They're not smiling. Sometimes like all their photos are them like looking at a cell phone, or it's just like all like, you know, from here to here.
Right. Yeah. Okay, it's not really showing their face. Yeah.
Like this is a pretty clear, if you're a man or a woman and all your photos go from below your neck to your waist, there's a clear message there that you are out for sex only.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know, and so if you're not completely out for that, you kind of think you might want to date or something like that, you know, I suggest adding in like a head photo. Yeah, but like people like immediately, I mean, they look at your photos and they sense your personality from it, right? And so if you don't wear makeup on them, you know, or put a variety of things. Like I have a variety. Sometimes I like today I'm wearing makeup, not wearing a ton of it, but I'm wearing some, and earrings. And some days, just like I'm on my lives, I'm here without like makeup and just in my, you know, my hoodie. And I have both photos on my profile. So you can see like me out camping, me out regular, and me done up. Because that's my, you know, dimensions. And you're going to see like my dating profiles. I've got photos of me being like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're in my life, you're going to see the reality of that.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Like people just look for photos for instant gratification sometimes. And they're like, nope. And that's the whole swiping left kind of thing. But getting to know somebody authentically is like really the way to go. But
you can show, I think, quite a bit of that in a dating profile pretty easily. Like if you know, some really select photos that kind of really show who you are. You know, you put some things down that really show who you are, and you know, you make it really clear. I think you're going to have a much better chance of attracting in the kind of people that are going to be a really good match for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And using words you normally use too, because I find that too. I started, because before it's not that I would pertain the language to whatever I thought somebody would read. Yeah. But at the same time, I was like, I have to start speaking how I normally speak rather than being like, oh yeah, however. But that too, because it's like, oh wow, I didn't think you were like that. Like my spirituality is a very large part of who I am, and rituals and meditation and whatnot. But I don't necessarily advertise that because for me, that's my sacred space. But yeah, when people find out, they're like, oh, I never would have, like, I thought you were all about Friday night. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not me either. Like, used to be, but no, not anymore.
True,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Like I always say that I'm like deeply spiritual. Like you're not going to get around that with me. And if you're kind of not in tune with that, like we're not going to be a good match. Like I'm not interested in having relationships with people that are not also like having an intimate relationship with, you know, God, universe, divine, however you want to look at it. Just not into it, you know? So it's like, yeah, totally into that. Totally into, you know, long-term evolving relationships.
Yes. You know, the ones that are consciously aware of themselves and others around them. Those would be great.
Right? I'll say that. It's like you need to be heart-centered, you need to be compassionate, you need to be doing your own work, you need to be self-responsible, like, and if not, apply it elsewhere. Like that's you know, because I'm here to give what I'm gonna give, and I know what I want. And those two have to match up. But yeah, I think using those words is good. Like, I mean, I say that I'm pansexual in, and I say that I lean towards, you know, highly masculine energy kind of type people. That I'm, you know, into some kinky things, into tantra, you know, because like I found before I was really open about that, I'd attract in people that only fit certain dimensions of me, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they're into just one of those things and didn't really understand that I'm a mom too, and that I'm spiritual, and that I'm, you know, and that was when I felt like I had to be like polyamorous. And I'd have like 5 different partners that all reflected different parts of me, you know. And it was like, am I trying to like patchwork quilt like one person together? Like, is there a person that could actually play in all these arenas with me? Like, you know, is that even a possibility? And for years I thought it wasn't, until I decided that I thought it was. And it kind of changed everything. You know, I found a lot more like primary partners that actually would play in all those arenas with me.
Yeah.
Although still not found the person that's like really willing to take the deep dive on like evolving within relationship. It's
Yeah. I hear you on that. It's almost like, I don't know if your experience, but my experience, I almost feel like people are afraid to do the deep inner work, you know, because I've gone on a couple of dates, and some women are being like, you're too intense. And I was like, what does that mean exactly? Like, I'm diving deep into the understanding of who you are. So how is that intense? But they're like, oh, even the language you're using is intense. It's like, it's deep. I'm like, yeah, that's what you're gonna get when you're with me. Like, I don't know how to not be that way. And so yeah, just really trying to not change that by any means, but like word it differently.
yeah, you just need someone that likes your intensity, right? Like, I mean, you know, over the years, I had a lot of people say I was intimidating. I'm like, intimidating. And they're like, you have a lot of really interesting ideas. And like, there's like work that you kind of want to do, and like, that's intimidating. Like, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, because for a long time, I didn't really understand what the intimidating was. And then, you know, it's funny because I've really delved into that conversation with people, and it's like, you know, it's just that there's things that I want to explore that are scary for them. And I think our inner selves is probably one of the places that, I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up with so much trauma in my life and kind of really had to do the inner work to survive and thrive. So I maybe didn't have the time or capacity or opportunity perhaps to be scared of that inner work as deeply and really think about. I mean, I had fear, but I never got to really think about it a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, I meet a lot of people that have gotten to think about it for many years, and they're like really scared of that unknown within themselves. Like, what are they going to discover? What are they going to see? What is that going to mean about them? Like, what is that going to, like, you know, it's so interesting. And it took being a therapist to really realize how terrified people were of what is inside of them. And the shocking, you know, truth is that it's just freaking absolutely stunningly beautiful inside of there. And when you can start peeling back those layers of that trauma and you're not going to see anything you haven't already been through, done, already been through worse. It's just deciding to actually peel back those layers to come into this just absolutely stunning, beautiful essence that I believe exists within every single human being, if they're willing to go there. If they're willing to go there. Not everybody's willing to go there. So yes, there are people in the world that don't look so vibrantly, unconditionally loving on the outside. And, they've got a lot of stuff covering that up.
Yeah. I'm the same like you, though. I feel like, because I have too have experienced a lot of trauma, and I think not feeling that fear, like I just, like you said, there's obviously that fear, but at the same time, whatever was going to happen no matter what, whether I had fear or not. So I think that's where my capacity to be like, because a lot of my trauma has to do with sexual trauma. Like I was born into a family and then raped and molested by a bunch of people, and then introduced into the sex trade industry at a young age, and then living through all of that, and then seeing how sexually variant people are, but not having, and I think that's why I do the work that I do now, because I do want people to layer back. And only because at the time the trauma was happening, there were points and times where I'd be like, you know what, all this person needs is to be loved, because they're reacting to me in a way that is aggressive, it's uncalled for, it's all of this stuff. But being able to hold space afterwards within myself for forgiveness, but at the same time holding space for them to heal, I was like, wow, this is intense, that because of you're so sexually suffocated that that the only way that you feel you can show love is by lashing out or being aggressive or being dominating to a point of, like we were talking earlier, like dominating to the point of like, what is that word? Not dismissing people, but like treating them like poop. I didn't want to say shit, but treating them like, it's like, and then like having people wanting to be objectified, or having people to, I sometimes want to look deeper into that with them, because there are healthy ways of being that way. There's healthy ways of being dominant. There's healthy ways of being submissive. And however, it's us that has to have the control over that. And I think that's why, like, I've been watching you for years too, actually, in the work that you do and how you offer it to people and stuff. And I definitely related, because there was a lot of times where working with my own clients, it's about the relationship of self. Like if we can heal that relationship of self and delayer all the toxic shit that keeps us from being authentically living in our essence, then we're dismissing not only ourselves, but everybody else who's trying to give us that as well, right?
It's so true when you say like the people that are sort of, if you will, perpetrating the trauma, they're traumatized themselves. And, there's this really interesting balance that you kind of have to, maintain there. Well, an interesting balance that I've had to maintain, but I think that would be really nice if we could all maintain, is to be able to be in our heart-centered, compassionate place and go, this person wouldn't be behaving this way if there wasn't stuff that had happened to them, if there wasn't stuff that had been perpetuated onto them. And yet at the same time, having the boundaries to be like, but I'm not going to play with you. And I'm not going to also, sort of be at your mercy or allow you to abuse me and things like this. And I know for me, and I don't know how this was for you, that was a really hard shift for me to make. I sort of really allowed myself to be abused like a lot in my younger years, because I just thought that was like literally they treated me better than I was treated by significant people in my upbringing. I actually couldn't even see how abusive it was for many years. And then even then, I then moved into this really compassionate, heart-centered place. I was doing a lot of work with Buddhist mentors and things like this. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I just really need to be compassionate. But then I sort of became kind of everyone's doormat. And then it was like, no, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's something still off here.
Right. Yeah.
How can I be compassionate and loving and still also have appropriate boundaries in my life to make sure that I am loving and being compassionate with myself as well? And it was like, oh, there's like this balance between being loving with ourselves and loving with other people, and then also understanding that love doesn't always look the way that everybody likes it. Sometimes love looks like, I'm a big no to having you in my life right now. I
Yeah.
know that you're going through things. I know that,
Yeah.
I know that you're a human being. I love you. I honor you. And I need space from you
Yeah.
because, the way that you are behaving in my life does not align. It does not, it's not respectful. It's not like whatever that is. Right.
Yeah. Well, I just posted something the other day too, and it said that because a lot of people are like, some people are like, oh, that's really harsh. It's not too kind. And it's just like, no, loving yourself and stating a boundary. And like, again, it goes back to that whole trust and boundaries thing, right? If I trust myself enough to know that my boundary is being crossed and I have the gumption to let someone know that, then to me, that is the highest form of self-love. Like, I can still be kind and say, no, that does not work for me. I
Yeah.
can still be kind and say, hey, you know what? You're actually taking up too much time and space in my world. However that looks, like, but having that dialogue in a safe way, so that, like, that nonviolent communication, like, we don't have to be aggressive with each other to communicate how we're feeling and what we're going through. We've all been through shit or stuff. Sorry, I forget whose page.
Oh, no. I don't,
Okay.
we've said
Sorry.
this so many times now. I don't know.
Sorry, guys. But at the same time, yes, it's like navigating through that and trusting yourself, because I too had struggled through the trauma and what love was. And I'd mentioned I was in a 7-year relationship where I went into that with addictions, with eating disorder, with all of that, and she just totally remained there with me and was just like, no, this is what loving yourself looks like. And then after we split, it was like trying to find things that resembled what she offered to me and gave to me. And then I found it in all the wrong people, because I too myself hadn't loved myself enough to recognize that what she was seeing when she was loving me for 7 years. I was like, I don't understand why you even care. But now I know, because I'm awesome. I see that now. Yeah.
So how did you come into, so I imagine, just because I have my own stuff in my childhood, that the trust and boundaries was, well, was it difficult? Like, I mean, that's, it's so interesting as I ask this question, because I'm like, I over trusted people. Because I didn't trust myself.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't trust my own self enough. And therefore, I had problems with trusting my outer world. But how was, like, for you, like, sort of having those experiences that you had, how was trust and boundaries something that you ended up sort of coming into and discovering for yourself?
When I met people that honored what I had to say, like, because a lot of the times I would shut down. I would want to say something, and then I would shut myself down completely. And it wasn't until I started and therapy, where I started surrounding myself with people who are like, oh, do you have something to say, Tracy? And I'd be so anxious and so scared. And because there was always a repercussion for me opening my mouth as a child. And so allowing people to be like, oh, do you have something to say? And then allowing me to say it, no matter, because I stutter sometimes when I get to, like, in my heart and I want to say it. So yeah, just allowing people to come in, and therapy really helped identify, remove all the ways that I actually didn't trust myself, because I would share the story and I would be like, oh, and I should have done this and I should have done that. And they're like, well, why didn't you? And I was like, because I didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it also helps trusting the people that you're around too, because I know now that I celebrated last year's 5 years of not being physically violated in any way, physically, like in terms of assault and whatnot. And to me, that's huge. So for that celebration, I keep those who generally see me and hear me close to me, because I know now that I can have a voice and I can speak without being assaulted or whatever. Like, I have the freedom to do so. And I'm not so angry either, portraying what I need to say, because before I was really like angry and wanting people to hear me and be like, how I expressed that was very angry too.
Yeah.
So I think it was just learning myself and learning my intuition, because I'm very, very empathic, and what I feel, I would always question that too. I'd be like, am I right in feeling what I'm feeling? And then I would ask people that, and they're like, yeah, you have a right to feel that way. And I'm like, okay. And then try to build from there. So that's kind of how it built over the last 10 years. It's like, okay. And now I just ask myself those questions instead of
Yeah.
having to reach out. Like, so.
Such a big one. I mean, I'm laughing because I'm just like, I can relate. I'm like, how often I used to feel like my feelings weren't okay. Like
Yeah.
like my feelings, you know, like if I had a feeling or I had to say something, it was just so, the reaction was bad. And, you know, and so like for the longest time, I didn't feel like I was valid in my freaking feelings. I mean, now it's just like irrational thought to me. It's like, no, my feelings are totally freaking valid. You know, I have my own set of experiences. I'm my own human being. I have, you know, feelings that I'm feeling from myself. I have feelings I'm feeling from everywhere else, you know, and my feelings are 100% valid, whether you think they're valid or not, or I have reason to feel them or whatever. Like that's your experience, you know, and I'm not going to have somebody else's experience projected onto me and therefore making me wrong. Like as soon as somebody like needs to make somebody wrong in relationships, that to me, you know, like that's one of those things that you need to take a step back and you need to look at. And it's like, okay, why is this person trying to make me wrong? Or why am I trying to make them wrong right now? Because that's usually a sign that you're, you know, you're triggering some sort of belief system, that, you know, something is coming up that is actually asking to be looked at, that is actually asking for healing, that is actually asking for some light to be put on it. Yeah. And yeah, it's such a huge thing, because I mean, I agree with what you're saying. You know, you can be in relationships where people are either, you know, verbally violating you or physically, or, and I see it happen so often and people just kind of shrug it off. Like I was visit, visiting some neighbors a few months ago. And I mean, I was watching the dialogue between this couple, and I was watching what was happening. And I mean, I walked away, and I can guarantee you there's abuse in that house. Like it was so, and I mean, it happens to me all the time when I'm sort of out in the regular world, and I'll see friends and couples interacting, and I can see this, I mean, yeah, it's so funny when you've kind of lived it for long enough, it becomes pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And so absolutely. I know there's lots of people that are potentially watching this that may not even think that they're in a relationship where, you know, they're being kind of violated in a certain way. And yet they very much could be. I mean, having a partner tell you to shut up, like, I mean, that's not cool.
Yeah.
You know, like even something as simple like that. And it usually doesn't stop at shut up, you know, no. That's usually like one of the lesser things. You know, at some point that other person might be hitting walls or hitting you or things like that. And, you know, I think that even though these are things that I think talk more openly about, I still think there's a ton of shame. There's like a ton of shame, I think, for men and women when they're being violated in a relationship, and to be able to say it, to be able to admit it, to be able to even admit it to themselves, because then you have to, you know, what do I do next?
Yeah, that's what I find within that. I felt like I had a lot of shame coming at me from the gay community when I would tell them like, hey, this woman's being really abusive to me. Like, and they're like, well, what do you mean? You're bigger than she is. This is like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who, man, woman, whatever, two women, two men, it doesn't matter. Like, that kind of aggression should not be happening. But I can relate to men who are afraid to speak out of the abuse that's happening at home from another woman, because it's like, you know, people ostracize, oh, you're getting beat up by a woman, come on, man, you just whatever. And it's like, same thing happens in same-sex relationships. It's like, guys, no, like this, I've been abused by women before. I've been assaulted by women. Like, more women than men. Yeah. And so it's like, that's where I would love to have the toxicity of And I think it goes back to that whole masculine thing. It's like sometimes I find there's women within the queer community who want to be portrayed as like the more masculine, but then they pick up the toxic masculinity. And I'm like, no, that does not make you a gentleman. Whether you're a woman, that does not make you a gentleman if you treat women like that at all. And it doesn't make you a gentle woman to treat another woman like that. Like that's BS. But I think that's why we do the work we do.
Well, and I think too that, you know, on the other end of the coin, I've also had like a lot of clients that have come in that will tell me that they've been abusive to their partners, you know. And I remember actually many years ago, I was big and I was pregnant with my daughter, and I had a male client come in and he wanted to work you know, on some things. And he came in, he was like very honest. He's like, I'm racist. I have hit my wife. I have hit my kids. You know, at this point, he pretty much lost everything. He was like road raging all the time. And he was just kind of done with what was going on in his life. And he's like, I just don't want this anymore. And I remember he just like kept looking down at my belly like the whole time, because it's like good 8 months pregnant. And finally he just stopped and he's just like, you're just being so nice to me. He's like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're pregnant. You're like, why are you even in the same office as me? And I was like, because you're here for help. Like, I don't have any judgment. I don't have any you know, if we can all let go of that judgment and shame and just go get the help and support that we need, because these are not journeys that we do alone. These are not journeys that we do alone. We need other people to hold us and to be present with us and to give us permission to like do this deep inner work. And you know, so if anybody's watching this too, and like you have hit a partner or you have, you know, done something. One sec, sweetie. Yes. No, thank you. Okay, well, I'm just going to be a few more minutes. Yes, you may have a hug. We're going to take a hug break.
Awesome.
Get a hug. You want to say hi to Tracy? This is Tracy.
Hello.
And see, this is where we're live. People can see us. Yeah, it's a little delayed, see? Yeah, pretty interesting, huh? But yeah, you know, I think, you know, if we can release that shame and just go get the help that works for us, that would be the best, because, you know, everybody needs it. It doesn't really matter which side you're on. You've at some point before that been a victim of it. I mean, that's just the thing. It's just that we have these things, we grow up and we choose the side that seems to be the one that works for us. And sometimes that's the one where, you know, we decide to take it. And sometimes it's where we decide to give it, because that makes us feel more powerful and control. But either way, it's a form of, you know, sort of reliving these same patterns. And we don't have to do it. Like, the cycles can be broken, you know, we can all move into a different place. And, you know, and I know that that's sometimes not a popular opinion. I mean, I have been on stages with people that have said that people that are abusive to others cannot be helped. And I know I've worked with it for years. I know it's not true. Like, it's not at all true. Can you force someone to get help when they don't want to? No. They have to like want to do it themselves.
Yeah, so, exactly.
So for all my lovely codependents, I'm a codependent in recovery. Not, you know, if you're with somebody that is being abusive in some way, you cannot get them to go and get help that they don't want to get. And even if they did agree to go get it, they're probably not putting 100% in. And if they're not putting it in and they don't believe that they have an issue, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So. And that's what I say to my clients too when they work with me. I'm like, if you're not going to start integrating the work, then I can't keep working with you if you're willing to allow yourself to constantly be going down that perpetual cycle of trauma.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you for this conversation. It would seem that I need to go back to my mother duties now.
Hello.
Right?
What's your name?
You want to say your name?
My name is Serafina Duarte Olivia.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. You're just telling everybody your full name. Yeah. And what do you think about like loving yourself? Do you think that's important?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do if you're stressed out? Do you want to give anybody some tips on here? Want to give Tracy a tip? If she's like stressed out, she's like feeling a lot of emotions, what's like one thing that she could do other than make faces? That's a good one. Humor's a good one.
Yeah, humor's good.
What else could you do? What happens when you like get really like emotional and you want to be safe with the people around you? What's something that you could do? And get tips for the world? Tips for Tracy?
No.
I need one tip before I go today.
She needs one tip. What do you think? What do you do?
I play.
You play?
Play, yeah.
Big emotions. What's like you tell us all the time. Every time you see someone have a big emotion, what is it?
Breathe. Yeah, just breathe.
Like
Yeah.
we'll be like literally like walking down the street, someone will be upset. She's like, they need to take some deep breaths.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
back into the body.
good eye, kiddo. Yeah, good eye. Or we can go, do some pillow screams, hit some pillows too. Just let those emotions run through. Yeah, she's like, she can see herself on camera, so she's like way more.
yeah, totally.
Welcome
Those
to
are some great facial exercises.
Right? Can you do that, Tracy?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look at this. Whoa. Both of you. Look at that.
You're missing some teeth though. Your teeth falling out. It's awesome.
Again.
Sweet.
Which she's quite happy about because her dad, genetically in the family, they actually often don't have those two teeth. So so for them to come in has been pretty exciting.
Fantastic. Yeah, right? Yeah.
Won the genetic lottery and got the fang teeth.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what's like one thing that you would like, just one kind of succinct thing that you kind of feel like, the people that are watching and listening today, like what would you want to leave them with?
Do whatever makes you happy, and whatever that is, as long as it's not hurting somebody else or self-sabotaging a path that you're putting yourself on, then go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Love yourself authentically as possible, and with as much honesty and integrity. Yeah.
I like that.
That was what I would leave with. And that I love them. Yeah, because I love everybody. Everybody's all supported in my world, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that, because I think that's really important. I think the more people in this world that are willing to kind of love and appreciate people in all their shapes and forms, the better place this world will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's my hope. And with this quarantine, it seems to get easier and easier, my job. I'm like, This is awesome. Yeah, as a highly sensitive person, I feel like all the, unnatural noise is out of the way, and I can actually feel and see clearly, which is pretty awesome.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. It was a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll do it again. It was fun.
Yes. Take care.
You too. See you later, little one.
Bye.